And I am done. I just finished up City of Dragons by Robin Hobb. This is the third of four books in the Rainwild Chronicles, which is a sub-series in the larger Realm of the Elderlings series. This is the 12th of 16 books in the main series. I really like this book. I give it a 4.5 out of stars, which is extremely good. Not perfect, but extremely good. I gave the previous book a 1.5 out of 5. I thought it was extremely bad. The only reason I didn't get a 1 out of 5 is because I actually finished it, and I only saved 1 out of 5 for books I never finished. And the first book was 4 out of 5. So as you can see, I really liked this series when it began. I liked the way it was going. Not quite as good as the other Realm of the Elderlings books, this is one of my favorite series of all time. I love it. So to start out as a 4 out of 5, it's the weakest entry book, I thought, out of this is the fourth of the miniseries. It was the weakest one out of those. And I think that was called Dragon Keeper. The second book was so bad. I hated it so much. I don't even remember the name of it. I just have PTSD thinking about how bad that book was. But this book fixed all the problems that the second book had. This is the shortest Realm of the Elderlings book, probably by a decent margin, and I thought it really benefited from being a little bit shorter. It kept the plot really moving. My problem with the second book is the plot. The entire book was about dragon keepers with their dragons going from point A to point B along a river, and it was the same scenery the entire time. It was so boring. There wasn't really an antagonist. It was just the life of these kids in really badly written relationships traveling. And, traveling scenes, I think, are usually done, can be really weak when they're for extended periods of time. They can serve as very useful aspects to learn more about characters, but when it's the whole book, man, it drags. But that last book ended in a strong place. It was too late to save the book, but the dragons got to where they wanted to go, and it ended. This book picks up right from there. It was cool. I like Kelsingra, this amazing place that they ended up. I like the dynamic of the dragons learning how to fly and getting stronger. I liked exploring this new city with a lot of interesting twists involved in the city that I don't want to spoil for you. Overall, the pacing and the story of the dragons themselves was significantly improved. But what really magnified this book into being a very good book was the fact that it didn't just focus on these dragons. Yes, the dragons are the most important part. But, you got to have... There were 4 different point of views in this book that we regularly jumped between. And all of the other ones were entertaining. And I liked hearing this bigger plot come back together. The Duke of Chalst. I think Chalst is I don't do the audiobooks, but I think it's Chalst. And he is just straight evil. I love having a real antagonist in this book. His whole idea is that he's dying, and he thinks that if he gets parts of dragons and eats them, that he will get stronger again and he won't die. And so he has tasked a bunch of people in his kingdom to go get dragon parts. And he's not requesting it. He's taken their family hostage. He is threatening the deaths of family members for people to go get these dragon parts. He's chopping off fingers and limbs from these people to motivate their family members to go get these things. And it is a fascinating dynamic. And these people that are tasked with getting them infiltrate this plot. And they have reasonable motivations to do this. They're clearly not doing good things, but you think about it, you put yourself in their shoes, and you say, what would I do to save my family? Maybe I would do these things too. So there's interesting motivation here, and it served a good antagonist plot. Rain and Malta and Selden, these kids in previous books that have turned into elderlings, they all get their own plots, and they're very good. I don't want to ruin anything about what they are, but they all have interesting twists to them, and I really liked it. There were scenes back in the Rainwild City that were the best part of the book. The twists and the way the plot went, and you had these classic like scenes where you're cheering for the main characters, and it's really fun and it grabs you. So I really like this book. I was so worried that I wasn't going to like it because of the previous one. I was worried that I was going to want to drop this series and it would suck out all my motivation to read this fourth book. But now it's back. I'm ready to read that fourth book. And I probably would have dropped off this series had it not been Robin Hobb, and had I not been 12 books out of 16 into a series that I'm really interested in finishing, because I've heard from a lot of people that the last of these series, the last 3 books, are possibly the best, or right up there with the other ones. And so I really want to read them, and I've also heard that you really need to finish these books before you move on to those last ones. So I'm glad I stuck it out. I feel extremely happy. I've never been looking forward to a book less than I was going into this book. And you love to have your expectations shattered in a positive way, which is what happened. On the negative side, though, I have a couple things to say. One is, I still think that this overall story is a little weaker than the other books, but still good. I hated that last book, like I've said a million times, but as I look back on that last story, I see now why it was written. I think it was important for this next phase of the story to have more meaning. I still felt like I wasted a lot of time. I wish I would have skimmed that book or just read a synopsis of it, and I would have been in the same place, but I get the reason why it was there. This is minor, but this book does epigraphs, and epigraphs are the thing where they have like a quote or something before a chapter. And I'm disappointed in the epigraphs in this whole series, because in the other realm of the Elderlings books, the Fitz series, they are really well done. They will go from anywhere from like a paragraph to multiple pages, giving an interesting history lesson about that world, or telling something meaningful that you're reading it and you're like, oh, that makes sense. This fits into the story. It makes me understand the plot a lot more. Or just a little flavor into the world. This one, it tells us, it's a series of letters being written between multiple people. And they're bird keepers. And they are at the major cities that are in this story. And they're sending these messenger birds back and forth. And so at the beginning of their message, it'll be like a message, the formal message that they were tasked with sending. Like something kind of boring that might have something to do with the story, it might not. But then the second half of it is their personal correspondence to each other and their relationships that develop between these characters. And it's a little interesting, but it's every chapter you're reading about this story, and it's not good. It's weak. And I almost want to skip it, but it every now and then has something important in it, so you don't skip it. But it's gone on too long. The gimmick is over, and I'm not looking forward to reading them in the last book. It's just like, come on, I want to move on with the story, or tell me something different. But not the biggest complaint. But solid book. I think the series got saved, and I'm now back interested in reading the 4th book in this series. I think it's Blood of Dragons. I have it penciled in to read later on in May. So look forward to my review there, and I appreciate you watching this review. Thanks so much.